Tonight on KQED Newsroom. On the one-year anniversary of the war in Ukraine, we speak with the San Francisco Consul General about how Californians have supported Ukrainians and what the war-torn country still needs. Plus, newly inducted into California's Hall of Fame, choreographer Alonzo King discusses his ballet company and the language of movement. Coming to you from KQED headquarters in San Francisco this Friday, February 24th, 2023. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Priya David Clemens. When Russia attacked Ukraine with massive military might, we wondered how long the war would last. Would it take weeks or months, or would it stretch on further? As of today, the battle has raged for 1 full year, and the question remains, when will the bloodshed end? Over the past 12 months, we've witnessed ongoing tragedies from bombs, tanks, ground combat, and air assaults. Tens of thousands of Ukrainians and Russians have died. An estimated 6 million Ukrainians have fled their homes as refugees. Throughout the violence, we have been inspired by courageous leadership and the resilience of the Ukrainians fighting to defend their land. In addition to the federal support provided by the U.S. government, there's been an outpouring of support from individuals. The Ukrainian consulate based in San Francisco has helped to coordinate volunteer efforts, donations, and political action from people in the western half of the United States. I'm joined now by Dmytro Kushneruk, Consul General of Ukraine in San Francisco. Consul General, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Tell me what is weighing most heavily on your heart and mind on this one-year anniversary of the war beginning.
I think it's the number of lives that have been lost, lives of Ukrainians, so our soldiers, civilians, our children, of this absolutely unnecessary, unprovoked war. And the atrocities that we have seen in many cities that have been liberated by Ukraine after it were occupied by Russians. And we have seen those dead bodies like in Bucha, in other places. So these really the pictures which we remember this day, and we just want it all to stop.
It has been going on for a long time. At the beginning of the war, there were predictions that, Kyiv would fall in just a few days, and yet that did not happen. It's been a trying time where people have fled the country, some have come back, but many have stayed outside of Ukraine. And some have come here to the United States and some to California. Could you tell us about the influx of Ukrainians coming here to California and how their needs are being met?
So probably United States compared to Europe have received less people, so about 100,000 people. That was the quota which was announced by the White House initially, and out of these 100,000, maybe 30% we assume came to California eventually, because even before there was quite a large Ukrainian community here in California, officially 100,000, unofficially like twice more. And the most needs of people who came here were the housing and finding a job. And finally, these issues were addressed, and they also receiving some benefits from the state, which allowed them to start. But what the difference of Ukrainians with maybe some other people is that they just want to come and immediately start going to work, earn money, and do not depend on any kind of state support at all. And then the government of the United States, I think it helped to a little bit expedite the consideration of their applications for work. And now they're trying to be integrated in the society.
Tell us about some other ways in which the state of California has supported Ukraine. For example, we've had a relationship for many, many years between the California National Guard and Ukraine and have provided training to Ukrainian soldiers for 2 decades.
Yeah, exactly, like almost 30 years actually. And this is so-called state partnership program. So Ukraine has been a partner of California National Guard. And there were lots and lots of Ukrainian soldiers who came to California to train, and California National Guard actually came to Ukraine, and they did joint trainings, joint troops training, joint aviation training, where the president of Ukraine has visited them while they were in Ukraine. So that helped build the relations between persons, between people, and This was helpful when the war started, because the Californian National Guard commander was in contact with the Ukrainian commanders, and they were helping coordinate it through NATO. And also the governor of California, I mean, we met with him, I believe, the first week after the war started, and has ordered to send help to Ukrainian humanitarian medical aid through an organization called Direct Relief, which is in Santa Barbara.
And then what about the outpouring of support from individuals and from companies? Can you tell us some of the ways in which those constituents have also supported? Yeah,
so being here in Silicon Valley, we can, of course, we kind of concentrated on the big tech companies which were helping from here, and those examples are, for example, Airbnb, which issued 100,000 of vouchers for people to stay in Europe or in the United States. And also Uber has partnered with United 24. It's an initiative launched by President Zelensky, and they have spent about $1 million. Then the co-founder of Netflix, Reed Hastings, has donated $1 million. The founder of Twitter has also donated a couple of $1 million. Google supported, Microsoft, Amazon, and many other companies who are working with satellite imagery have provided imagery, especially that was important at the very beginning of the war. We have seen like long columns of Russian tanks, and it helps to show where they are so that Ukrainian troops can accordingly fight against them.
When you talk about satellites, it brings to mind, of course, the Starlink system for communications that was also provided to Ukraine at the start of the war by Elon Musk. That's his company. But recently, Elon Musk has said he's not going to keep providing those Starlink communications. What is your thought about kind of our local tech mogul and his influence in the war in Ukraine? Have you spoken with him?
Personally, me not, but our Minister of Digital Transformation has been in constant communication with him and exchanging tweets before Musk has acquired Twitter, actually. And I mean, we're grateful for Elon Musk initially, because the Starlink has really made a change in the communications and helped a lot Ukrainian civilians and Ukrainian military. Then at some point, Musk's position was a little bit strange in his understanding of this war, and to where it all goes.
Strange how?
Strange, he thought that, he kind of at one point, people in Ukraine thought that he kind of tried to listen to Russian narratives. So we would like his position to be really pro-Ukrainian, because it's not only pro-Ukrainian, it's pro-freedom, pro-democracy, so there is no other way.
You spent quite a bit of time working alongside President Zelensky, and you've seen his transformation from the time he came into office to who he is today. Could you tell us some of your personal experience with him?
Yeah, so we all know when he came to power and he became a president, he did not have a political background at all, and now we understand that is actually his advantage, because he was a completely different person. He was a very easygoing person, and he wanted to change the system, how it works, and he managed to do that. But then when the war started, he, of course, we just saw his pictures at the beginning, and right now it's like completely two different men, because the war has made him become a strong leader of a country at war, which probably many people did not expect him to be. But, he appeared to be the right person for the right time to talk to international leaders, to gain support throughout the world. And that's probably the most important thing he could do right now, as well as being a very good commander-in-chief of our, and the leader for all our people and the army.
We just saw a new commitment today, $2 billion from the United States to Ukraine. There are, though, polls showing financial support is waning. Desire for that financial support among people is waning. What do you say to those who say, listen, this war seems to be going on for a long time. Are we going to just pour money into this, forever?
So I think that if we're talking about the United States, this country is a leader of democracy for the world, and everyone should just understand that these are things which are happening in Ukraine, that you cannot just allow that to continue to happen. And that's why the United States has to support that, and people should understand that. Just the moral side of that. It's one thing. Another thing is that it's not just money spent, is how President Zelensky said. It's basically investment into international security, in which the United States is a leader. And it's like investment in preserving this world order, because otherwise, if Ukraine was to lose, which would not happen, then the bad guys in the world would continue their bad things. They could just invade other countries, take their territories without any punishment. And it would be complete disruption. And then even the person sitting somewhere in the middle of the United States would feel that consequences of that. That's why it's just not an issue of helping for Ukraine, it's just helping preserve this world order. And as well, by this help which you mentioned, which new package of aid today announced, it basically all the money are going to United States producers of weapons, of different drones, of ammunition. So basically the money will stay within U.S. economy. And they will help create new jobs in the United States, that's factories. So I think it's basically beneficial for both sides.
For you personally, how has the war impacted you? Do you have family, friends who are there, who have had to flee, who have been harmed?
Yeah, so we all have friends and families who have been affected by the war. I have my family, my parents in Ukraine, and my wife's mother has, as the war started, she was in Kiev, and it was very dangerous. So she came to us here. After 2 months, she came back, and that's, I believe, will happen to many people in Europe. They will actually come back to Ukraine after the war will be over. But I have persons I know who have already been killed. Unfortunately, many friends who are in the army, who are in the front line, and we here locally, together with Ukrainian organizations, were sending them drones, bulletproof vests, even like on a personal level, and you could see those photos that they send you back, having that with the gratitude towards the Californian American people who were donating that.
As this devastating and tragic violence continues, leaving many people dead on both sides, do you see any hope for peace in the near future?
Well, first of all, there is no other country in the world which wants peace more than Ukraine does. And the President Zelensky has proposed his peace formula, which is part of the resolution adopted by the United Nations General Assembly yesterday. Also, we now hear a lot of different peace proposals from different big countries of this world. But most importantly is to understand that there are no just two sides of this war. There's one aggressor and one victim. And we need a long-standing just peace, which would mean that this war, this attack will not repeat again. That's why it's not just to stop shooting and freeze this conflict as it is. There is no solution like that. We'll need literally a long-standing peace, and that requires, of course, we understand there will be negotiations at one point, but only after Russian forces will be out of Ukraine in internationally recognized borders.
Consul General Dmytro Kushneruk, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Alonzo King Lines Ballet Company in San Francisco has a mission to nurture artistry and the development of creative expression in dance.
A society or culture that doesn't honor art is a brutal society, because it's saying your being is not valuable. What's valuable is only material. If you think of the removing the art from the world, we're not recognizing what human beings are. We have a heart and a mind. They too are in a balancing act. If we ignore the heart, and there's a lot of that, it is a huge imbalance. We want humanity well fed on every level. It's a human right.
The company was founded in 1982 by Alonzo King, who was recently inducted into the California Hall of Fame. King has received multiple accolades, including Master of Choreography from the Kennedy Center and being named an irreplaceable dance treasure by the Dance Heritage Coalition. He holds honorary doctorates from Dominican University, California Institute of the Arts, and the Juilliard School. Joining me now in studio is Alonzo King. Thank you for being here.
Hello, Priya. It's wonderful to be here. It's an honor.
So you were recently inducted into the California Hall of Fame.
I was.
Curious how that feels to you to be recognized by the state of California, or maybe what California means to you.
It was wonderful. You know, Gavin Newsom gave me the San Francisco Mayor's Art Award years ago, so it was a nice full circle.
Because he once again was inducting the honorees this year.
And his partner Jennifer. And it was wonderful because everyone was uplifted. You know, scientists, Peggy Fleming, who I'd seen forever, you know, ice skating. Everyone was in a very positive mood, so that was fun to be around.
What does California mean to you?
For me, you know, growing up in Santa Barbara, having ocean and mountains right there with that incredible temperature and always able to see the horizon meant a feeling of peace. After living in New York for so many years and having to fight to find places where I could see a horizon or I could find a sunset, you know, going to different parks and doing subways, I had to come back to California so that I could see those places of expansion, because they make you feel large because you feel so teeny. You know, when you get the perspective that I'm actually a teeny little thing in the universe when you're in nature. And so being around nature is really reaffirming. And so to answer your question directly, something about California is incredibly progressive, always looking for next steps in how we can advance civilization, how we can advance ourselves in wellness and care, how we can, I think it's something that feels evolutionary being here. And I've always felt that this is one of the places where change is always at the forefront.
Your parents fought for change. They were members of the civil rights movement.
That's right.
Is there something you've learned from them, I'm assuming, that you now carry on in your own traditions of your artistry and your work?
My father was the president of the Albany movement. And so he engaged with everyone from Malcolm X to Martin Luther King. He traveled. He was a world traveler. And I remember being in a mass movement where they were speaking to the congregation and they were saying, I was a little kid, and they were saying, we're going to do this march. You cannot fight back or resist. There is no retaliation if someone spits in your face, kicks you, hits you. And the room would kind of dwindle to one side because they would say, who is able to do that? And some people were like, no, I'm not able. And some people were like, yes, I'm willing to do that. And so to be in an environment and in a space where these adults were willing to give up their lives in order to make things better for other people or to bring light to what was incredible darkness, it is inspiring and also intimidating. And so when you are around people who, what they say and how they behave are not in contradiction, where they're the same, that what you believe in and what you speak and how you behave is the same straight across, it's very powerful.
Does that have a direct link to your work as a choreographer?
I think commitment and honesty, looking for truth, and what it really means to commit. And so you look at that when you're working with artists, like who is really in it and who is committed to what they're doing. And people who are committed, they seek change. And I say that because often audiences or awards can bring a certain kind of satisfaction if you've been working one way. But in your quest for more and better, you may go in a direction that people feel no affinity with at all. And you have to be honest to that and not worry about praise or blame. And so you have to follow where this path is leading if it's going to open up new territory. And that takes bravery. It doesn't allow you to become comfortable.
Tell me about how that manifests in your work and how you have evolved and changed in the 41 years now that Lines Ballet has been operating in San Francisco. You started with one idea and vision, and I'm sure that has transformed over the years.
You know what? I think the the forms of how it's manifested have transformed, the artists that we've worked with, the settings that we've done, but the mission, the very beginning, is still the same. It's still the same. We are, the idea, Priya, of evolutionary process is part of life on planet Earth, because when you look back at your life, you want to see that you've grown and you've changed. And if you haven't, that's scary. It means you've stayed small. And so in order to not be a psychological antique, you want to accelerate your evolutionary speed. Now, there's the slow evolutionary cycles of living on planet Earth. But as a human being, you can speed your evolution up by transforming yourself. And so from one year to the next, you can really become a different individual. This isn't the same for animals. There's instinct, but with the human being, we have the propensity to go from imitation and formulaic habit into giants of thinking and feeling. Every human being has that propensity, and so that's where you want to put your work. It's the key in all relationships. After the honeymoon is over, which is inevitable, and anybody who's thinking of a perpetual honeymoon, they're living in a dream world. And so when it comes to its end, it means this is the beginning of the work now. And the work is self-reform, inevitably. We have to see how we need to change. Isn't that interesting? I often say you'll go to a peace march and there's not much peace. And so if we want to change something, we have to change ourselves. And that's the very nature of art making, because it switches the external view to the internal view. And so anytime we're pointing the finger at someone we dislike, a behavior that we find heinous, we have to examine ourselves to say, is there a trace of that in me, in the way I treat my colleagues, in the way I treat myself? That's the first question. That's the first examination. If I really want to change others, I have to change me.
It's a truth that's hard for many of us, right? Do you explore any of these themes in your upcoming season, your spring season? Number 23, is that right? Is coming up soon, and you have a couple of very special collaborations.
Yes.
Are these themes you explore there?
I think that with most makers, choreographers, composers, they're themes that you revisit again and again because they're huge and they come out in different forms, but underneath they're there. And one of those themes that reappears often is that we are immortals. We're not weak, whining mortals. We have incredible powers.
There are many concerns with social media,
yes,
but there are bright spots too. I want to point specifically to TikTok, which has brought dance into so many people's lives.
Yes.
I'm curious about your thoughts about TikTok in particular,
yes, as
a form of sharing and expanding dance around the world.
I think it's great. It is for me an affirmation that everybody is a creator. That everybody, if they're really true to themselves, they have original thought. They have something to say. They have a point of view that you may have never expected. And that is so refreshing. And so the idea that people are stepping into their creativity is huge, because I would say that's when we're really most ourselves, when we're being creative, because that's our true essence. So I think it's a beautiful thing.
Alonzo, for those who would like to see your upcoming season of work, they can do that at the Yerba Buena Center. The Spring season is beginning on April 15th, and you're collaborating with Lisa Fisher and Richard Mizrak. And tickets can be picked up at linesballet.org. We so much appreciate you being here in studio, Alonzo. It's been a pleasure.
The appreciation and pleasure is mine, Priya. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're returning now to the war in Ukraine for the end of our show. Throughout California, over the past week and the past year, there have been rallies and symbols of support for Ukrainians. Tonight's Something Beautiful is a look at some of those moments, accompanied by Kitka, a Bay Area Balkan women's vocal ensemble. The commemorations continue this weekend. If you'd like to take part, there are many events, among them a jazz benefit at San Jose City Hall tonight supporting Nova Ukraine, a local philanthropic group started by Silicon Valley engineers. And tomorrow, there is a rally called Unite for Ukraine at the San Francisco Ferry Building starting at noon. That's the end of our show for tonight. We will see you right back here next week. If you'd like to share your comments or questions, you can email us at knr@kqed.org. You can also find KQED Newsroom online or on Twitter, and you can reach me on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Priya D. Clemens. Thank you for joining us. Have a great weekend.